starting with some basic proving. Now, a lot of you guys will think of geometry probably when you hear that word prove. But basically what you were doing is you were starting with whatever you have on the left side and ending on the right side, or vice versa, and just explaining the steps you took to get there. Now, the beautiful thing about this is they actually are giving you the answer. So you just have to explain how they got from the setup to the end. So let's take a look at one that we are already somewhat familiar with. So when you are trying to add these, what you need to do first is we're just going to copy down that very first part. So 2x minus 1 over x squared minus x minus 2, and then plus x minus 3 over x squared minus 3x plus 2. So as we look at this, we have to kind of brainstorm. How would we go about solving this? So when you look at this, you see two fractions that are being added together. So anytime you have two fractions that are being added together, you need to have a common denominator. And to have a common denominator, you need to factor. So the very first thing that we're going to do, and one of the things to be mindful of is you have to write each step out. You can't just manipulate within this step. You have to write each step out. So you have 2x minus 1 still on the top. On the bottom, that's going to factor to x minus 2, x plus 1. And then on the left, or excuse me, on the right-hand side, the bottom is going to factor to x minus 2, and then x minus 1. And again, you want to be able to explain what it is you did at that step. So you would say, at that step, I factored. And so then you want to go ahead and go to your next step. So your next step is to be able to get common denominators. So this is going to equal, and so on this very first fraction, we need to include this x minus 1 that we did on the right-hand side. So what we want to do is we're just going to rewrite this first part. And now we're going to multiply the top and bottom by that x minus 1. So the hardest part about a lot of this for many people is just slowing down and showing each step individually and not trying to skip steps. Okay, now this fraction on the right-hand side is missing the x plus 1 that we had on the left up there. So we would have the x minus 2, x minus 1, and then we're going to multiply that by x plus 1 and x plus 1. So the reason that we can do this is because in this case, that it simplifies via 1, and 1 times anything is itself, so we haven't changed the value. Same thing here. This is multiplied by 1, so we haven't changed the value. So your explanation for this is what we just did is we did an algebraic manipulation. Now here's the thing, there's no fancy words for these. As long as you're explaining your steps and like what you're doing, that's the key, okay? So then what you're going to do up at the top of each fraction is we need to multiply. So as we look, we're going to take this 2x minus 1 times that x minus 1, and so you would have 2x squared, we're factoring here, okay, minus 2x minus x plus 1, and then, excuse me, not factoring, FOILing. You're multiplying those binomials. The bottom stays the same, so x minus 2, x plus 1, and x minus 1. And then you're going to FOIL along the top of the second one as well. So we're going to multiply the x minus 3 and the x plus 1 together, and you would get x squared plus x minus 3x. Those are your inners, and then the last term of minus 3. And then that's all going to be x minus 2, x minus 1, and x plus 1. And so at that step, what we did is we went ahead and we multiplied those binomials. You could also say that you FOILed, that's fine. Multiplying binomials is a mathematical way of saying that. FOIL is just an acronym to help you remember how to do it. But that's either way would be totally fine. And now what we can do is across the top, we can go ahead and combine like terms. So we're going to go ahead and make this one big fraction now. So we have 2x squared plus x squared gives us 3x squared. And then we have negative 2x, negative x, which gives us negative 3x. Another negative 3x takes us to negative 6x, and then the positive 1x will take us to negative 5x. We're just combining like terms. And then 1 and negative 3 will take us to negative 2. The bottom still stays the same, x minus 2, x plus 1, and x minus 1. And so what we did at that step is we just combined like terms. And again, you could say something else. You could say something like I added the numerator or something of that nature. Okay, and so now here's the thing. You want to go ahead and take a quick check. Are we where we want to be? And so if you look, we want to get to this 3x plus 1, x squared minus 1. We're not there yet. So what we need to do is we then need to look and see how can we get, and one of the keys is we can get this denominator simplified a little bit. Well, we have to go ahead and factor the numerator to get to that point of simplifying. So we can take this numerator and we can factor this. Now, just as a refresher, that 3x squared minus 5x minus 2, I'm just going to kind of do this off to the side. This is kind of me just showing you my work. Remember, you can use your AC method, and so we can do this negative 6. So what multiplies to give me negative 6, but adds to give me the middle term of negative 5? And that would be a, sorry, just blanked out for a second. So multiplies give you negative 6, adds to give you negative 5 is negative 6 and 1. And so what we could do is we could split that middle term into negative 6x, positive 1x, and then we could factor by grouping. So we'd have 3x here, x minus 2. That's going to be an x minus 2 still. So I can just take out a 1, kind of hold that place. And so this is going to be factored to be 3x plus 1. And then x minus 2. Now I'm going to show you something here in 1 second that will make that factoring step a little bit easier if you're confident up to that point of your other steps. So again, what we did there was we factored. Okay, and then from here, we can recognize that we have an x minus 2 and an x minus 2. So we have 3x plus 1 over x plus 1, x minus 1. So we just canceled common factors. We're going to erase this so we have a little more room. Cancel common factor. And then your very last step is going to be to go ahead and combine that denominator, because again, we want to get where we have exactly what is on the right-hand side. So this is going to simplify to be x squared minus 1, and what we did there is we multiplied the binomials. Okay, so as we look at this, let me go ahead and go back up to this. This 3x plus 1 over x squared minus 1, this is where we ended. That's how we know we are done. So we have to take each step kind of step by step and explain what the heck we're doing. Now I mentioned a second ago that I'm going to show you just a quick step in this factoring that can help you. Okay, if we can kind of keep our eyes, and I'm just going to kind of put this in a little cloud bubble, if we can kind of keep our eyes on the end result, that's going to help us because we know we need to have 3x plus 1 as part of our numerator. So that can be one of our factors. And then we can look ahead and say, okay, these two are going to simplify to give us this x squared minus 1. So then I can help by doing this as my other factor to cancel out. Now the only thing is you want to make sure that can help you, but go ahead and factor that, or excuse me, boil that out to make sure that you did factor correctly to get to that point, because that factoring step could also make, could also serve as a check for those steps previously. So you can kind of use where you're going to help you with this particular step, but you don't want it to be necessarily the main strategy that you're using there, okay? So again, guys, we're just using some algebra. We're just taking one step at a time, explaining what it is that we're doing to get from the very beginning part of our question to the very end, okay? So make sure that you're explaining your steps, make sure that you're not skipping steps, and as always, ask questions if you need it, but hopefully that at least provides you some guidance. Thanks.